If you find the English attack of the Sicilian annoying to face, then this video is going to put the ball right back in White's court. In these next two games, this first one between Nasuta and Adipan, we are going to see that we don't necessarily have to let White get in an easy g4 push as such. Now, the reason why a lot of GMs like to play f3 is to avoid this draw system with knights g4 and, kind of repeating and moves like this, which is, admittedly not really giving White so much of an advantage. So they will play f3 to avoid knight g4 and only then bishop e3. And now, rather than going into the main lines where we go e5 and h5 and, go for a ton of correspondence play, I'm going to show you a more creative approach where we play e6 and then play the move of h5. And I think you get the idea of h5, right? That we just want to not let White play g4 and ask him, well, if your plan isn't g4, g5, like, what are you doing here, And I'm aware that, your opponent might think that you're a beginner, but what matters isn't what they think, but how we crush them over the board. And let's see this game where Adiban faces an opponent, Nasuta, the Polish GM, who says, okay, I'm just going to castle long. By the way, b5 is probably not the most accurate move order. Like, you want to be a bit careful about a4, and your pawn ends up being a little bit weak. Like, this is sort of a good example of a position you kind of want to avoid as black. Like, the b5 square is a bit of a problem. So I would personally, play a move like knight d7, like wait for him to castle, and only then play b5, and that's going to get you into the sort of position we'll see in the game, where after a3, knight bd7 castles. Like, black's moves are actually pretty natural, right? I mean, you just, play bishop e7, rook c8. You play your normal Najdorf moves, essentially. And it's a lot less obvious to figure out what White's plan should be. And that's reflected in the fact that in just a few more moves, Black was already better. Engine will tell you that, oh, you can play this funny move of rook hg1, which is what it's a move that White played in the game. But you're still not threatening to play g4, right? Because if you play g4, I mean, Black's just going to take and, take on e4 or take on h2. So again, White's struggling a little bit to find a good plan, and that's reflected in the fact that on the very next move, White decided to play the move of rook g to e1, just giving up a cold tempo just like that. If you're enjoying the video so far, do make sure to like, and also subscribe to the channel for more of my daily 5-minute, or this might more like 10 minutes, my daily 5 to 10 minute trading videos. And my mission for those of you who are new to the channel is basically for my free stuff to be better than most of the paid stuff that you are currently going through to improve your chess. Well, you guys are going to be the judge of that, but let me know in the comments below if you are finding this valuable and what your favorite part of the video is. Probably what White should do here is either put the bishop on g5, kind of a bit like in the Rouser lines where you often see this idea. I mean, Black's position is definitely still playable. Like, you can still go like knight g6 and, build this like sort of fortress around your king in the sense where you're just like taking the sting out of f4, f5 ideas by, make sure f4 isn't going to come with tempo. But okay, at least White can play. Like, this is a position where White has their chances as well, right? It is the open Sicilian after all. But yeah, either this or, h3 immediately might be more to the point. But, probably White was concerned after h4. Like, if you go g4, your pawn structure is a little bit weak here. The machine will tell you, like, you've got enough dynamics to sort of make up for it. But Black's position is certainly quite okay also. Like, knight h5 and just kind of stabilize the king side to some extent. Now, after rook g e1, Black just castled, so just because we played h5 doesn't mean we're not going to castle. We're just saying, well, now we castle, we're not worried about the pawn storm anymore. And after h3, h4, again, you can sort of see how we're fixing the white king side in place. And soon enough, the computer actually thinks it's better to go d5 and just, like, rip open the center and, just make the point in a position like this that, you're the only one with a pawn in the center. They don't have the space advantage, so it's like, well, what you're doing is white, g4, h4, and, what's your plan? It's not obvious. But in the game, yeah, Black's still got a pretty good position anyway, like knight g6, holding the pawn, and, at some point, maybe the rest of the game is not so interesting, but, we can see that Black is just not letting White get in g4, even as a good sacrifice. Knight c4, and, Black is just clearly better. He went on to just pile the pressure on e4, pile the pressure on the c file, and Black went on to win a pretty nice game from here. So, having seen that the long castling plan is just not really giving white any sort of advantage. Well, only the tiniest of advantages for white objectively. But practically, I feel like it's already almost easier to play black because our plans are a bit more obvious. Let's now see what happens if white tries to be a bit more flexible and try to punish us from playing the h5 move a little bit early. And for that, I'm going to show you a game by none other than Magnus Carlsen. I know you guys all love Magnus content because, I'm watching it with you on, the other chess channels. But yeah, in this one, okay, so bishop e3, e6 was played. At one point, if you do decide to play e6, they're not limited to f3, like they can also play moves like bishop to e2 or, g4, the perennial attack, which is not so trendy, but I mean, it exists. And even moves like a3 is kind of a recent trend at GM play, which I might even cover in a video for white in the future. Let me know down below if you would like me to share this modern weapon with you, which I actually covered a bit in a Dismantling the Sicilian book, actually, in 2017. So kind of cool to see it's now become the main line, because back then it was virtually unknown. But I digress a little bit. I will mention if they do play bishop e2, you can play like in a similar style with this kind of thing. Like you go queen c7 and, they sort of are meant to play in the spirit of like of an English attack, but then you just kind of stop them going g4. And yeah, this version's admittedly not as good as the other one, because like your move order, you play queen c7 instead of like rook c8 or bishop e7 in the previous game. But I think up to about a 2-600 level, you could probably still make it work as black. Because you're, again, not giving white an easy plan, like h3, h4, and you're not getting in g4 scot-free, let's put it like this. Anyway, moving on to the game. In this case, what Shirov does is he plays the move of... And again, like I said, you should go for like knight d7 and then b5. Maybe the reason why some of these GMs are playing b5 immediately is they don't want white to stop the move b5. But I think these positions are actually just quite okay for black. I mean, bishop e2, queen c7. If they castle short, you just go b6, you kind of just play it like a Khan Sicilian. But it's a Khan Sicilian where like f3 and bishop e2 doesn't gel that well together. So all in all, I do think black should more or less be fine here. Like strategically, the worst case scenario is probably if they go a5 and, you end up in some position like this where, white gets the pawn on a5. But even that's not so bad. Knight a5, we probably can just take on b2 maybe. But if rook fb1, we get this. And, again, I don't think black has so many problems here. Like, even if you just play, like, knight e5, I don't really think that the black position is so bad despite the weakness. Computer will tell you can even go, like, d5 and just, like, sack a cold pawn and equalize. But anyway, that's going a little bit off topic. But still a question you might have here, how to deal with a4. Well, now you know. And after b5, like I said, white really should go a4, but instead Shirov goes bishop e2. I believe this was a Title Tuesday game, if I remember it correctly, so that's maybe the reason why the move orders weren't so accurate, because I think in a classical game, a player of Shirov's caliber would just play b4 and then a4 as a very, very automatic reaction. Like, pretty much every Grandmaster on Earth knows that this is a thing, let's say, because it's just a pre-ohm. But Shirov plays the move a4 instead, because, it's blitz. But the difference now is that black is a bit better developed than he was before. I mean, we're not limited to, like, playing a5, but we can actually ignore their threat of knight b4. And it's what's going to make you a really great chess player when you learn how to ignore the opponent's threats, not just react to them. But d5 is a really great move here. Because if white takes, we can take with the knight. We defend the pawn and we hit their prized bishop on e3. And in the game, after knight takes b4, d4, I mean, you basically have a 2-0 central majority. If they do take, well, you still have a central majority and they are running all sorts of tactical nasties here. And after c3, I mean, black is just basically strategically better, right? Because you have the more active pieces, you got central majority. You even can use like the h-pawn as like a way to create weakness around the white king, like getting that fawn pawn in the alpha 0 kind of style. Now, Machine will tell you there are other moves like knight c5 or bishop c5 is a bit better, but point is black is better almost no matter what he plays, because just long term he's strategically much better. And I mean, fe4 in the game just made it easy for black. Like, it's just very hard to meaningfully defend the pawn h2, because like you don't want to, run at h3 and just allow bishop h2, knight g3 and winning the house. But after knight f3 and h3, like again, white's king is just way too weak here. Like knight df6, bishop d3. In the game, might even just like sack the knight, and it just turns out that the white king is just way too exposed. I mean, it was blitz, like Carlsen misplayed it a little bit from here, but he still won because he's Carlsen. But I mean, here probably the move to play is just go like bishop f4, try to swing the queen into the attack, and if they try to avoid it, you can swing the knight in, and it just sounds like you're just going to flood the pieces in. There's just not a lot white can do. Like very ferocious style this kind of play as black. Anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you guys, how to avoid the English attack. And we can see that when we play this h5 move, they don't get in g4 basically ever, because of h3, h4, and, g4 en passant, and their structure kind of sucks after that. And of course, usual disclaimer, like if white plays perfectly, they get a very small edge. But it's something that, unless you're playing like a Carlsen or Nakamura, is probably not going to make much of a difference. Against your usual opponents, it's going to be very frustrating. They can't play g4, but that's what they do against everything else. So they're going to find themselves a little bit lost and probably already making things up at this point. Let me know in the comments below, what was your favorite part of the video? Are you going to try this h5 move yourself in your own games? And yeah, I'll see you in the next training. Take care.